450 Nigerians, mostly students, have now arrived at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport aboard a MAX Air flight. They arrived this morning, and we're being joined by our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, who is on ground at the airport to give us more details. Kayla, good morning. I imagine that there's plenty of excitement where you are. Is there?
Good morning, Malcolm. Well, they're excited. A lot of the students that we're seeing, and they are mostly students. A lot of them seem very excited to be back home, but, very tired, because this has been a very long process for a lot of them. We spoke to a few of the students, about their experience, when the war broke out, and how they had to leave their homes, and find their way to the border, some of the challenges they faced at some borders. But one thing that is resounding from a lot of the people that we spoke to is the fact that the Nigerian government actually stepped up. We actually told a few of them to give the Nigerian government a score as to, the response that they gave them, following this crisis. And many of them said, well, by the time we got to Romania, the embassy in Romania was very helpful. They said they were able to get places to sleep, they were able to get places things to eat. Most of the complaints that we got were about the embassy in Kiev. They were talking about how that particular embassy wasn't as helpful as they would have wanted it to. They felt a little let down sometimes when they got to the border, and they were able to see that the Indian students already had a bus waiting for them. But by the time they got to Romania, one of the students was actually calling out a few of the Nigerian officials who were very helpful to them when they got to Romania. And they're just really tired, and the government has told us here that they're going to be giving them a stipend. So they would not be, I don't think they'll be flying to Lagos. That hasn't been clarified yet, but they will not be taking them to Lagos from here. What's going to happen is they're going to give them a stipend, some money that they will use to board flights to wherever it is that they want to go to. But very fatigued students, and basically trying to relax from all of the things they've been through in the past few days, Malcolm.
Well, certainly very fatigued, and that's understandable because a lot of them have to walk miles and miles to be able to get to the border, which eventually led them into Romania. But I'm sure that they must feel relieved as well that they're home.
Yes, a lot of them really are. In fact, the few ones we spoke to, there were some that didn't want to speak to the press. They just wanted to go home. We're just tired. We just want to go home. We just kept hearing a lot of them say that. And it's a lot of walking, hours of waiting for a bus, hours of, looking for a train, wondering if you're going to be safe the next minute. And a lot of them are students. Some of them are thinking about how they're going to go back to school. The Nigerian government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here was telling us basically they're trying to ensure that gap does not exist. So they're trying to see how they can make sure that they continue their studies, trying to make sure that they're fine, and they're able to go back to school, even if it's to go back to school online. There are some students, however, that they told us they weren't able to bring back because they're in their final year of medical school. So those ones are still going to be in that part of the world, trying to see how they can sort themselves out in this particular crisis. But for others, we heard the ministry officials talk about how they might have to go back to school online, and one arrangement or the other has been done with whatever schools they're in to ensure that they continue their education.
Well, there are so many things that I'm sure you still want to catch up with, Kayla. But do you notice any parents, come to welcome some of the children from their schools, or is just the students alone?
Okay, so it's important to note where. Good morning, Ayo.
Morning.
It's important to note where they're actually, where the plane actually landed. It's not at the regular part of the airport. They landed at the private jet terminal. So the private jet terminal of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. So it's not a place where you typically have families waiting the way we have at the regular arrival spots in the airport. So there are no parents here, not one. They're basically just the students and government officials, and they're trying to see how they can sort out all their paperwork. There's quite a lot of paperwork to go through. The NITP and ECIF forms, they're having to go through a COVID PCR test. They're going to be self-isolated. When you go home, they're going to self-isolate, and they've been advised to maintain social distancing until test results are out, and those results are negative. And they're going to be contacted by phone or email if the result comes out positive by the FCT team for free treatment. So there are no parents here at the moment. It's just students and government officials, and they're trying to make sure that all their documentation is done properly so they can start going home.
Well, Kayla, we trust that you'll keep us updated as events unfold. Thank you so much for your update this morning. Again, for those who missed it, 450 Nigerians, mostly students, are back from Ukraine aboard a MAX air flight which landed in a private jet wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. Thank you so much, Kayla, for the update.